Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our course on how to get more patients and clients. And we are talking about our module, How Practice Makes Perfect. Super important concept. I know you've heard it before, but it's so true. And so, our first topic under Practice Makes Perfect, we're going to talk about why your presentation is critical in helping you be able to make the sale. So, Greg, tell us a little bit more about what the presentation is and how we can perfect the presentation.
Presentation basically should be an organized and structured way of selling whatever it is you got.
Yeah.
And what you want to do is practice that presentation over and over again so you know like the back of your hand and you come off as a true professional, meaning no one ever wants to be the first person or like, oh, this person never does this. That does, dictate how much someone's willing to spend and pay for your services because it's a trust thing. You may know everything there is to know about physical therapy or training or the body or whatever, but if you seem like, very nervous and all over the place, that's going to instill that kind of energy into the client.
So true. Yeah, if you come across as being unprepared or inexperienced, then they're going to think, well, he must not know what he's talking about. Yep. And so really you may be the best one on the planet at that, but if you don't come across as such, or even in the ballpark as such, like people aren't going to perceive you that way. So super important.
Yeah.
So that presentation, how do we go about knowing like what are the elements of the presentation we need to focus on and study up on so that we can practice that?
Yeah, basically what I would do is you go back to the 25 question, where you're figuring out questions you're going to ask, and then you organize those in a way that makes sense. So you put them in through a sequential type of a sale, where it's like it makes sense that's this question, and once they answer that, it makes sense. It leads into the next one, so that it starts to get the conversation going, and you can gather as much understanding of what problems they have, so that you can make solutions.
Right. So there's an exercise for you. So take a look at your process, right? So take a look at your whole process of your patient journey and say, okay, here are my different sales points. And really you're always selling. But here's some of the sales points. Here's my 25 questions for each of those points. Organize them in a logical fashion of like, okay, at this point, here are the 5 questions I'm going to ask. At this point, here are the 5 questions I'm going to ask. And think about that. Lay that out, draw it out, map it out, and go through your sales process at each part of that patient journey and map that out and then practice.
Rehearse like an actor with their lines in a movie where you're continuously, because a lot of sales is questions, the tonality of your voice, when you're asking them, how long you're pausing in between, are you going too fast, are you going too slow? And those are all things that if you memorize and rehearse your presentation, then you could start utilizing some of those more advanced strategies on how to kind of control the conversation so that you can almost effortlessly move them along the process. But if you don't rehearse, you don't practice, you're not going to have consistency in your end result because if one time you're asking a core set of questions and that works, and then the next time you forget because you're just winging it, then you're reducing the likelihood of repeating the scalable behavior that you're looking to do in the first place. So
now it makes a ton of sense. You're a baseball player in college, right? Let's say you get an injury and the doc says you can't swing a bat for 2 weeks. You come back at the end of that 2 weeks, first batting practice, are you hitting bombs again? No. Yeah, right? Like
even if you're insanely talented naturally, you're not. If let's say you do hit a bomb, you're still not going to as far because you haven't practiced.
Right, and you're not going to be as consistent. You're not going to you may luck into just hitting it just right. It was your pitch, but most likely, right? It's going to take some time to get back into it. Same idea with sales. Like you've got to practice that presentation. You've got to come off as this is just part of how we do things here. This is the way it's done because it's how it's going to benefit you the most. If you can have that kind of confidence in you and that experience level by practicing it, it's going to come off as you're a professional instead of you're just making this up as you go.
Or you're just a beginner.
Right.
Because then people want to pay you beginner rates because that's what they're getting. So rehearse your presentation over and over again
it.
till you know exactly what you're going to say, when you're going to say it, and you'll see that your converting percentage will go up.
Yeah.
You're going to get more sales. You're going to get more repeat buyers. You're going to be setting the tone correctly for when they become a client or a patient. And so rehearse.
Yeah, perfect. And honestly, huge tip there. That practice, it makes it perfect, right? It makes you better. And it's the same as any other principle on life, whether it's baseball, whether it's sales, whether it's your actual practice techniques that you use on your clients to help them get better. If you weren't practicing those, you're not going to be very good at them, right?
Yep.
And so same thing at helping them make the best health decisions. You have to practice that process of helping them get out of their own way and make the best health decisions. And so that's all about practicing that presentation. So next we're going to dive a little bit deeper into how to set up that presentation. So kind of the sequencing of those questions, the sequencing of your sales process. That's what we're going to dive into in our next video. So stay tuned. Make sure to check that out because that's going to really help you learn the tactics of that. We're excited for it. We'll see you then.